प्रेजेंटेशन आएगी यहाँ पे ऐसे
हाँ नहीं वो तो खैर बाद में ले लूँगा मैं पहले देखूँ लेडी को ठीक है
ये रिकॉर्डिंग ठीक है
Good morning. Drew Parker is the senior advisor for emergency that I lead up. He also was formerly the chief of water sanitation and hygiene in our Pakistan office. So, Drew, if you're ready, could you please kick off with your keynote address? Thank you.
Often offer a leverage opportunity to ensure due consideration for secure allocation to drinking water. Coastal and urban locations are increasingly disaster prone, and the risks are obviously greatest where these two overlap. And this is often the case in South Asia. But I'd like to focus attention on the area that I believe carries the greatest risk to us all. That's the urban setting, which by 2008 housed over half the global population. And in coming years, it's estimated that 90% of population growth in the developing world will be in the urban sector. Millions are projected to live in cities in the coming decades, and 4/5 of people in India's megacities are projected to live in substandard conditions. The urban settings generally show that the vulnerable are located on marginal land, where the risks are highest, the hazards are greatest, and they have the least formal support and infrastructure. In Haiti, for example, there's been a steady flow of poor rural migrants to already overcrowded urban slums. The availability of potable water is 54% in Port-au-Prince, but only 25% in holistic wash programming in urban settings. This leaves the software and the community engagement to CBOs, faith-based organizations, local NGOs, and usually on small-scale projects. Emergency response in the urban sector, unlike in the rural context, struggles to actually deploy seasoned and experienced practitioners. And this, I believe, is of critical concern given the increasing risks, especially on support. We don't have internal emergency capacity for urban. We utilize a standby agreement with a private sector utility company, Veolia, to access suitably experienced staff on a pro bono basis. So there are significant opportunities to explore linkage to the private sector, or to access and deployment of public sector employees to help tackle infrastructural challenges. But it doesn't actually help us a huge amount in addressing the holistic WASH programming and needs in the informal urban settings. So it's both logical and essential that we explore opportunities to enhance our ability to respond to the WASH needs in urban settings. In terms of systems, there's a need to build in system redundancy for essential services and locations. Pipe networks, either servicing water or sewage, are extremely vulnerable to damage and to maintenance shortfalls. The centralized treatment of water carries with it the inherent risk of contamination, of increased contamination. The more you centralize, the more the risk is raised, and the dependency on maintenance. Especially as a lot of the water and sewage systems are subsurface and well past their design life. Rawalpindi in Pakistan has begun a replacement of overlapping water reticulation systems dating back, some of them, to the start of the last century. Many of these were laid alongside sewer pipes. Most of them, both the sewage and the water, have leaks. And any drop in the water main's pressure can result in suckback. Disaster and conflict invariably compromise the functionality of such systems and escalate risk accordingly. In population centers post-conflict and post-disaster, speedy restoration of essential services is critical. The importance of long-term planning can't be overemphasized. The Haiti floods in 2008 illustrated the folly of building municipal boreholes without due regard to potential flooding, both with casings and electrical switchgear placed in vulnerable locations. Development planning initiatives and timelines are all too often defined by political tenure. Yet risk to wash 70% of the pumping equipment in the Magri treatment plant, the main municipal treatment plant, and had to supply generators to keep the place operating. And for the next 8 months, we supported government in chasing and repairing leaks.
Thank you very much, Drew. I think with our keynote speaker, we've set a context for looking at the three questions which you can see were posed to this session, which are, what have we learned from the past, what's the potential for the future, and what are the ways forward to speak to us about their 30 years of field experience in post-conflict and post-disaster settings.
On WEDEC's involvement with emergency post-conflict relief in the water sanitation sector, which goes back to the early 1970s. Some of you may even remember the Oxfam loop.
To ask our third speaker to come up. This is the final oral presentation of the section. I'll point out to you, you are going to have a chance. If you're itching to ask the first two speakers questions, you will get a chance. But first we're going to ask Dr. Ritesh Arya from Arya Drillers in India to come up and speak about groundwater, glacier flooding and global warming in the Himalayas. Thanks very much.
Good morning, everybody. Today I will be presenting groundwater, glaciers, global warming and flooding in Himalayas. Now, groundwater in general is a very poorly understood subject in the mountain regions of Himalayas, and its relationship with glaciers, global warming and the impact it can create on flooding is yet to be understood. We are working on the high altitude cold mountain deserts, and we are presenting a case study based on the Lake Alpine. Now this relationship of groundwater, global warming, flooding holds the key to solve water problems in the Himalayan mountain regions and also build sustainable habitats in near future. The misconception in the past was that mountains, when we started this project about 17 years back, was mountains were devoid of groundwater, especially in the Himalayan mountain regions. But with the experiments carried out in different hydrostratigraphic zones, we have found that groundwater is available in plenty in the Himalayan mountain ranges. Why we say so? Because all springs which have been used traditionally over the ages are just nothing but manifestation of groundwater resources. Till date, 30,000 borewells have been drilled in the last 17 years in the different hydrostratigraphic zones in the northwestern Indian Himalayas, in 3 states which we have drilled with various different agencies, and we have found water at altitudes about 15,600 feet. We have encountered Arctic conditions at 14,260 feet. All these show that there is ample amount of groundwater, not only at intermountain valley regions or in shallow hills, but almost at the heights and the peaks which we have. We have models to show that every peak which is 8,848 meters below the above the mean sea level will have groundwater resources. Now, the fact is, glaciers are receding due to global warming. Some of the glaciers, as you are seeing here, have already become extinct. But this is another slide. This shows that this is the entire glacier which was existent here. This is in the dark region of the Himalayas, and it has already receded. And there was no man-made activities, no man-made interventions, and still this glacier receded. Now, the relationship between global warming, groundwater, glacial bed, and flooding. So, when the global warming due to climate changes is increasing, what is happening is everything is increasing. The temperature is increasing, leading to glacial belt. This slide basically summarizes the relationship between all the activities. The glacial belt is increasing, the water in the system increases, and the groundwater also increases in the mountain regions. Now, mountain regions leading to flooding activities, this will come. This is how the schematically are given. The glacial belts increase due to global warming. The groundwater percolates into the mountain regions in the various hydrostratigraphic zones which are identified. Once this is good for the use for drinking and agricultural purpose, but once this groundwater increases the threshold, then these mountains burst. And this mountain bursting phenomena is yet to be understood. So we are just trying to show that mountain bursting in the Himalayan mountain regions is going to be the next event to be watched, and the mountain flash floods will lead to the ultimate destructions of the lowland valley regions downstream. Now, what does this study imply for the policy makers? This is important. So, if groundwater is increasing in the system, we emphasize that we should extract, explore and develop as much groundwater as possible to solve the water problem in the mountain regions. This is economical and sustainable solution, and for the last 17 years, not even a single well drilled, I'm telling you, drilled systematically, geologically properly explored, has done dry or reported any decrease in the discharge contrary to the views expressed of depleting water resources world over. Now, these are the happy moments. This is a village. This is a project. This was a project initially 1997 funded by WaterAid. So we drilled a well on the Indo-Tibetan border. This was for the Tibetans who migrated in 1959. And this is a village very near. They were facing a lot of problem in winters because of freezing of water resources and flooding of water resources. And we had a Puga geothermal site here very near to vicinity. So the water complex. So groundwater was a solution for them. Now for the last 11 years they are having absolutely no problem with the water, and they are drinking water in the school. This is a Tibetan SOS school. Now the second aspect is, this is the positive aspect of groundwater development, of solving the drinking water problems, industrial problems. Now the other side of groundwater increase in the mountain regions due to global warming is the floods. Now this is very typical, how a groundwater can induce floods in the mountain regions. So we are trying to make now studies to show that last civilization, the Indus Valley civilisations, may owe its extinction to the maximum flooding which occurred due to mountain bursting in the past. That was maybe a phenomena which took place about 5,000 years ago or more. So this is what is happening is now everyone is trying to concentrate on the valley regions. This is just a slide to show that we are concentrating our habitations in the valley regions. A small flood, you can see here that a small flood can cause the entire devastation and destroy the entire habitations, with what we are concentrating on. Now this is a case study which we have taken up in Khardungla catchment, this is Ladakh, at an altitude of about 3,000 meters above the mean sea level. The highest peak is at the Khardungla Glacier, which we have taken study, is about 18,600 feet. So why we have taken this is because it is easily accessible and the documentation is very easy. We have done about number of borewells for the last 12 years in this, and we have got ample amount of record which is available, and the receding characteristics of the glaciers can be very easily documented here. Now you see, this is one of the sites where this is the Indus River here, and Khardungla Glacier is at the top at 18,600 feet. This is about 11,000 feet here. We have drilled borewells almost across this axis up to 15,600 feet. And here last year we drilled a borewell and we found the confluence of Indus Glacier. That is the first time we discovered the presence of Indus Glacier. We have heard about Indus River, but evidences of Indus Glacier. And also the Khardungla Glacier. We call this the Khardungla Glacier. And the confluence, we were drilling wells here and we found that evidences of Khardungla Glacier and Indus Glacier here. So now it has receded about 90 kilometers and you can see at the top, Khardungla Glacier is now restricted to the peaks. So a lot of no man-made activity, no industrialization, still the glacier had receded in the past. And important thing is they made the habitations pattern in the past was very well organized. They never concentrated on the flow of the glacier. Now these are on the basis of the evidences from the glaciers, we have been able to identify these paleo channels from where we are getting this groundwater. And only the paleo glaciated channels, this is important now, only the paleo glaciated channels are giving us ample amount of water. The surface water or is not giving us that much amount of water. All the aquifers which we are getting on perennial sources and giving us a lot of discharge are paleo glaciated channels. Now groundwater in the last 5-6 years has become a household commodity. Every hotel, people who have visited Leh about 5-6 years back and now they visit. So you have ample amount of water. Earlier there was quite scarcity of it. So groundwater has really created a tremendous amount of socio-economic changes in the way of life the people are living there. Now what are the implications? Now the place I am talking about is almost 6 months in a year. It is cut off from the rest of India. And you have freezing problem. The water, the river Indus freezes there. You can just walk on river Indus and we have chadar expeditions and in summers there is flooding problem. So groundwater has turned out to be such a simple and an economical solution and it has really changed from unreliability, from uncertainty to certainty, unreliability to made the entire system self-sufficient and it holds the solution for ushering a green revolution in near future in that cold, high altitude cold mountain deserts. Now these are the few pictures showing how people still were waiting for water and water sources drying up in various regions of Himalaya. The tankers, water tankers, still in some places are the only solid way of getting water for the people. And this is a slide showing what all the streams you see, the waterfalls freezes, the streams freezes, where people have to collect water, ice, and then they melt it. This is the snow which they have melted and get water in the past. Now the things have changed due to groundwater development. Now they are getting almost water even at temperatures where it was minus 60 degrees. Last year we drilled a well at the Ras, that is the second coldest place, habitated coldest place in the world. So groundwater was a solution there also. So this is another groundwater development and these are the evidences of Indus glacier being discovered for the first time. And now the utilization process, animals, happy children, all the slides you see on most of them, women and children are taking water and they are happy because they don't have to get water from far away distance. Wherever water is required, we give water there and there. So that is the significance of groundwater development. Now the important question is, if we are going to pump all our resources into groundwater resources, what is the time? How much time these resources are going to last? This is a very important question all over the world which is asked, how much groundwater. So we should not generalize. In Himalayan region, the amount of groundwater is enormous. And even though the glaciers are receding, still the potential is very good. So we have shown that the life of groundwater is directly proportional to the glacial melt. Even if we have a small amount of glacier in the mountain regions, anywhere we have groundwater. So these are the obviously models and the theories which we are working on. Maybe at times it may be contradictory to you, but these are practical experiments which we have been carrying out for the last 17 years. And this is the remains of the Khardungla Glacier, which was extending up to 19 kilometers. Now this is what is left, but still we are happy. And this is a source of water for the entire lake catchment, and now and in future. Now the problem is today, due to economic compulsions. Now economic compulsion is driving our all habitations into the valley regions because we get plain regions, water is easily accessible, don't have to cut a lot of material for building houses, so everything is being concentrated in the valley regions. This is the biggest problem now. We are ignoring the geological knowledge, and due to economic compulsions, we have some policies of the government also to make industrialization in the valley regions, and that is driving us into regions which were initially considered to be fragile for habitations and industrialization. So what is happening is ignorance of geological knowledge, ignorance is making them to make buildings and industries in valley regions, and this is a major threat which will be faced in near future. But what happens is a small simple flood can lead to heavy devastation in near future. This is happening world over. The valley regions are being flooded with habitations because of a number of reasons. Ignoring the geological knowledge is very important for groundwater development, sustainability, as well as building good habitats. Now you see, this is about Khartungla, this is about 18,000 feet. Initially, in the past, this was considered to be good for agriculture. Now this is Indus River, that is about 13,000 feet. So this entire valley region was good only for agricultural purpose. They used to pray so that Khartungla Glacier should not harm their habitations, and they used to work in the fields in the day. Now what has happened is this has dried up, but all the water is seeping into it, and we have drilled wells here which show that debris of about 300 feet, 100 meters or more is available here. So that is going to move due to this thrusting, and then the habitation is being incorporated into these valley regions, and the entire habitations goes for a 6 when a small flood or a small slide occurs. Now if cyclones, earthquakes, tsunamis and hurricanes are events which we have been talking about in the coastal regions worldwide. Mountain flash flooding event is an event to be watched in near future. This phenomena is today poorly understood. We don't have any paleo studies. We need to give more emphasis on understanding this, and this holds the key for our survival. So need of the hour, I'll just like to conclude by saying that understanding this relationship between groundwater, global warming, glaciers is essential for our very survival in the mountain regions and also in the valley regions, because anything, mountains I consider to be the headwater regions of any catchment, whether it's Indus Valley civilization, whether it's Brahmaputra, Sanko or any other civilizations. If anything is happening in the mountain regions and you are not worried about monitoring these resources properly in the mountain regions, if the head is not okay, your entire body systems goes project. So emphasis should be on studying, but you see everywhere you talk about no mountain hydrogeology, no paper on mountain hydrogeology, no paper on mountain groundwater, no paper on mountain water resources. So emphasis should be on mountain hydrogeology. If your head is right, everything is right. That is what it is like. Preservation of glaciers. Now, economic compulsion was one thing, and the second thing was we had some political problems, so we have to keep the roads open. So I'm talking about the Khartungla catchment, it's not generalized. So this military compulsion is also driving roads at the top of the peaks. We have cleared the glaciers so that the road. So that preservation of, we are talking about preservation of animals, we are talking about preservation of glaciers, how we can preserve them. Skiing is, we are doing skiing, or we are building some resorts in the mountain peaks where we are disturbing the glacial concentration, not allowing the glaciers to flourish. We are destroying the seeds of the glaciers. So that has to be taken into consideration, because until unless we preserve these glaciers, we don't interfere in their growth, then we will be different. Now utilize groundwater to the maximum. This is an important question. We have to utilize groundwater because it's most economical and the cheapest resource available till now. We have to use it judicially. It is not over-exploitation, but we have to use it judicially. We should develop groundwater to the maximum, but you should use it judiciously. That is very important. If I have to draw blood from my body, it is from every 2 or 3 months I can draw about 100 or 200 ml, but then I can live also, and the glacier can also live, and everything works very well. Now, utilize groundwater to the maximum, and groundwater, I have already told that it's available almost below Mount Everest, any peak I can get groundwater probably. Yeah. And select habitations for sustainable development. I think that is it, and I'm also with my last slide, making everybody happy. These are the Ladakh. We have a hat-on drill here, and they are so.
Since you have the Baltic Sea so close, and so in the permission, permit for the construction company, when they got the permit from the municipality to build in this sensitive place, it was put in the permit that it should be urine diverting toilets.
Right.
Because of the nitrogen to not emit so much in the Baltic Sea.
Not the feces.
Not the feces. Yeah, it's this housing area is on a small island with a bridge, so it's you don't have to take the ferry, but it's still on an island. So they built on this island. They built a wastewater treatment plant, but with no nitrogen removal. And in Sweden, at least for bigger wastewater treatment plants, you need to have phosphorus and nitrogen removal, and this is because of the Baltic Sea that we have here. I know in some areas in the world it's not so important with nitrogen, but here in Sweden we're strict, or we have nitrogen removal on the big treatment plants. Maybe 20-25 households for each tank for urine. And the rest of the wastewater, which is the feces and flush water and shower, kitchen, everything except the urine, is going to this local treatment plant on the island. Treatment plant is also a polishing step that is used summertime, if I have the right information. We will hear more. The dam, polishing dam, and then out. The system is closing the loop, because now they have found a farmer that is taking this urine and spread it on his fields, and that is our second stop for today, to meet this farmer. That I'm interested in toilets. I'm a consultant in a small-scale wastewater treatment. We're working on a private small consultant firm with 9 people.
Your name?
I didn't say that. Sorry, and my name is Ebba. Ebba at Petersen. Ebba. Website in Swedish, which is called if you translate it, it's called the Wastewater Guide for Small Scale Houses. Outside the cities, outside the central sewage systems, and have their own systems. And it's we have information about different types of systems, we have projects, we have literature, and also links to manufacturers that sell toilets, or to entrepreneurs that build toilet systems. Thank you.
Safety jacket. What type of wastewater treatment? What type of wastewater treatment?
It's private, almost domestic, yeah. And the site, the website is financed by, today I think it's 187 out of, in total 290 municipalities in Sweden. So they pay us for keeping this website, and so they can tell their inhabitants to read on Avloppsguiden, and you will get the information you need. And so on. So we have about 90% of the Swedish people are connected to the central system. As the subject of the day is urine diversion, we have the Mr. Urine of Sweden, Håkan Jönsson, or maybe of the world, I don't know. He, of course, if it's in his subject, he wants to come, so said, can I come? And we said, okay. So if you have any very detailed urine diversion questions, you can also ask Håkan. And as Håkan points out, in our garden.
So what do you do with the sludge? With
The municipalities
take it,
collecting, yeah.
collecting. And what do they do with it?
They put it in the central wastewater treatment plant, and it's put together with the
So
rest.
there's no connection, then they just they vacuum it, they take it through the vacuum.
Yeah, and then go with
Collect.
chloride. What was I saying the last thing?
You were saying about that.
You're talking about your own home.
Yeah, my own. Yeah, right. So
There's a law.
so you're supposed to have a good system. The law says that you should have something more than just a septic tank. You should have some kind of treatment. Yeah. The toilet or the wastewater treatment systems in these 10% that is not connected is not always the best. 1967, I think this law was. 67 or 68, the law that says that you should have a good system started. But now 14, and but these ones are mainly in summer cottages. Main part of these are in simple houses where you go in the vacation. Oh, how are you doing back in the back? Have you given up? I will not talk so much longer now, but we can come back to these issues during, or the company that runs the central system in Vaxholm, the municipality where we're going. They are responsible of the transport of urine to the farm. This is how it is in Sweden, and the reason for this is one reason is fertilizer is very cheap. Second reason is urine is still very small volumes, so it's nothing you can add, you can count on in your farming. It's not that you know I will get this amount of urine. It's more an extra little puddle of urine. And the third reason is this, especially this farmer, he doesn't have animals. He doesn't have the machinery to apply the urine on the field. So he has to get an entrepreneur coming there to spread out the urine, and these ones are expensive. they cost, is it 1,800? I think it's 1,800 per hour. Oh well, I will think about that. But it's you pay the person coming with big machinery to spread out the urine, and this cost must be covered. Housing area, the people living with these toilets, they have to pay an extra fee for the urine system, or for the handling of the urine, even though they are helping to not let out a lot of nutrients in the Baltic Sea, and they are recycling nutrients. Still they have to pay a fee for this. It's a bit backwards. We will talk to him today. I'm not sure what it's seed. It's not on lane.
But we have also got the sword.
Yeah, right. The farmer has, he used to have
You do in Sweden? 150,000?
135,000 is sold, and of those only 15,000 are porcelain toilets.
15,000 are
China, yeah. So that is
supporting.
porcelain, and
Porcelain.
probably that is also permanent houses.
Yes.
The rest, 120 are simplest summer cottages.
Kullen is an eco village. It's ecologically built. It is the oldest, like that.
Yeah.
The oldest houses are 12 years old, and the youngest houses are 2 years old. There are 251 family villas here on the island, and I guess you're mostly interested in the water and the sewage system. And the water, it comes from the same water work that supplies the whole of northern Stockholm. And the sewer system here, it is divided into a urine system and a system for, vad heter det andra? Feces, yes. And the feces are pumped up here to this house you see there, where it is cleaned. It starts with a mechanical, then a chemical cleaning, and the rest is kept in tanks at the back of the building and is taken away by tank trucks. And the urine is collected from every house. It goes in separate pipes from the toilets to tanks in, there are 12 different tanks in this area. And formerly we couldn't sell the urine. It is very good fertilizing, but the farmers were not interested, and now we have finally found a farmer that is using the urine. So once a year there comes a tank lorry to empty the tanks and drives it to the farmer, and then he has to keep the urine for 1 year in a tank to be sure that there are no bacteria or other problems in it. And then he spreads it out as a fertilizer.
How far away is the farm?
The farm is
About 20 kilometers, I think.
20 kilometers? Yeah.
Like, it's about,
Yeah.
Well, that's 20 kilometers inland. It's not
Yes, yes.
It's not on the island.
And the system works quite well for us, and it's very rare with this urine separating system in Sweden, but it's self-instructing. When I moved here 5 years ago, and my grandchild was then 4 years old, and when he saw the toilet for the first time, he said, "Oh, you pee in front there and the biggest thing's back there." So he understood it at first glance. and I think it's more, grown up have more questions about how to use it. But we'll look at that later, and I will also show you the urine tanks. And if you look into the wood there, you might see a fence, and behind there is a small pond, because from this cleaning equipment there's a lot of wastewater that is pumped into this pond. There it stays for 2 weeks or something like that, and is naturally cleaned by the things growing in the pond, and then it goes via a small, the beck, small stream, river, down to the sea. Any questions?
You said the urine is a good fertilizer.
Yes.
During this period, have the inhabitants here used it in their gardens? I mean, it's a good fertilizer also for gardening?
Yes, I know that some people, before we were able to sell the urine, they used to collect the urine themselves and spread it in the gardens. But that were not official and only private initiatives, because there has been a tradition in Sweden that you could use urine to fertilize.
But you have to pay extra cost. You have to pay extra cost in terms of selling this urine to the farmers.
Yes,
Yeah.
we had a problem because the farmers were afraid that if they used human urine to fertilize, they would have problems selling the grain and the food produced.
Yeah. So you pay farmers to take this urine from you.
Yes, we have to pay them.
Okay, so it's an extra, as a household expenditure, it's an extra cost.
Yes.
If you would have been living somewhere else, you wouldn't have been paying. So what is the motivation for you to stay here?
Well, I think it is very much varies from person to person. 25 years ago, they started to plan this eco village, and then there was a lot of very idealistic people, and they had very high-flying plans of all sort of equipments for the houses to make them very ecological.
Okay.
And then they didn't have economic resources enough to start this project. So they cooperated with two house builders, and they built this area more in a normal way than they would have wished, and it also became more expensive than they would have wished. So many of the first idealists, they couldn't afford a house here. And then some people move here because they think it's a very beautiful spot, it's close to the sea, and it's nice houses. Some have a more of an ecological interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
But isn't it likely that if they had not in their plans installed during diversion, then either you would not have they would not have had the permission to build in this protected area, or at least the wastewater treatment plant would have had to have nitrogen reduction?
I don't think that is true, because there are many similar areas like this with more conventional sewer solutions, so that wouldn't have been anything. But I think that also the politicians in Vaxholm here that decided, they were fascinated by the idea and supported it. And it was also less expensive for the community of Vaxholm to exploit this area when we built this type of sewer system.
You said the farmer stores the urine for a year?
Yes.
And it's been stored sometime before?
Why
so much why is it so long, the storage?
It's expensive to pick up the urine. That's why we collect it here, and it is emptied once a year, but we have not so much experience. I think this is the first year that we have been able to sell it, and then there's a legal demand that you should store it for a year. But I don't think it would otherwise be that big a problem.
I don't think you really store it. You collect it in a tank But it's not counted as storage because the tank has a filling all the...
Yes,
Fresh urine is coming in.
it's
filled.
filled. Yes.
So then it's stored at the farm. And there's a legal, or there's a recommendation that's considered for the farmer to sell his produce. At least 6 months.
Ska jag fråga busschauffören?
There was a guy who was doing this study. It's very interesting. I think they have launched
Ebba?
what happened.
Ebba? Ska vi ta och fördela oss på 2 hus nu först då? Och se på urin.
Och då kan vi väl... Ska jag ta och följa med? Jag kan följa med dig där. Så kan vi ta och sen så går så bestämmer vi en tid eller liksom vi kör en kvart eller någonting och sen går vi till tanken.
Vet du vad tankarna är?
Nej, jag tänkte att det hänger med.
Du vet vad jag på? Det är den andra parallellgatan, alltså det är en gata, 3 stycken enplanshus som är där. Så det är ungefär där bryggan slutar. Om du går ner här och sen där.
Vi kan ju ansluta ner till
Hälften av mjölken stiger av och till föreningshus.
Är det Fredriksgrupp?
Ja, jag spelar. Bushen. Om du håller åt sidan.
And it's
Small part of the Baltic.
aha.
So there are bridges, but in Vaxholm we have a sailing boat, and if there wouldn't be the bridges, we wouldn't be able to go in with the sailing boat. Yeah.
Can we take pictures?
Yes, it's fine. Okay.
Hello.
There is a bathroom, and the toilet that was the reason
Vad ska fan
Most of it, I've been to have like just an hour.
if you're on your I think I might have.
Men jag tror inte att det var så.
Så jag låg på barkkompost som hade till 5
Vad är det för toalett på det här då?
Jag tror att detta inte är så först. Jag har tittat efter.
Just do the business.
If you are allowed to flush the toilet so we can see how it functions. Gets, you know, in the front compartment, when you flush, it's flushed away. As you see that such a lot of water comes that it takes away feces and paper, and already the urine has been evacuated through the thin pipe there.
So a lot of water would also go into the urine pipe.
Yes, because if you would only have urine, it would be a lot of salt and it would clog the pipe. You have to have quite a lot of water to make it function.
So you've never had trouble with it clogging?
Yes, it clogs. Can I tell you something more about the
system?
Yes. You saw that there's a very thin pipe for the urine, And normally you're supposed to sit down because then it's more naturally separated. But even if paper or even feces get in the front compartment, as you're ready and you flush the toilet, such a lot of water comes that it takes away the paper and the feces, and only the urine has already been evacuated through the skin. But as you know, urine contains a lot of salt. And this house is 10 years old and we spent it 1 year ago because it was broken. In the tanks there's more water than urine because you need some urine to dilute it and to transport it. And also some water leaks into the system. And in this block there are 25 houses connected to the same 2 tanks of urine, and there are 12 separate areas with urine tanks. So, but the central system hasn't had any problem.
Where is the solid goes to? Where is the feces collected?
The feces is collected to a central system where we first stopped with a bus. You saw the cleaning station there. So, as you know, there's a big height difference. The feces and most of the sewage water is pumped up there, cleaned there, first mechanically, then chemically.
So you are actually mobilizing it through a liquid, through water media?
Yes,
okay.
It's water media, it's not a dry system.
Okay, so it is a separation but a wet system, and now it is the height, the gradient will make them move. No, there is pressure.
No, it's collected at the lowest point. You can see a small red house. I will point it out to you. The cleaning station and the most heavy and the clean water most of the
Unfortunately, we can't drink water.
I thought there would be most the Chinese people coming, but is there even one from China?
And they got off the Chinese group was the first group.
You are
we can tell you a little bit more about this maybe, because I think it's interesting also for you.
Ni har en...
One for each house. Jag pratar om
bergvärme. Jag förstår. Har vi någon tidsplan vi ska följa?
This is about the geothermal? The geothermal heating from the subsurface?
We drill a hole 80 meters down into the ground.
Okay.
Yes, and then we pump up the water and take the heat from the water, and with a heat pump system, do you know?
Yeah, heat exchangers.
Yes. Then we get, then we have lines of water in the floor, and that heats the house.
In winters?
Yes, in winter.
And in summers it absorbs the heat and gets back to the...
Yes.
And it works very well?
Yes, it works very well, and it's very economical.
Really?
Vad är det? 9,000 kilowattimmar om året. 9,000 kilowatt hours a year to heat and to light this house. And you know, it's a lot of darkness in the winter and a lot of cold.
You like the light? Ska vi gå?
So this was all conceptualized earlier only. This when the construction was being done, this was already decided.
Yes, it was decided already. Yes, because it's a very effective system. You know, a heat pump, it gives 3 times as much heat as it takes electricity. If you would have direct electricity heating, it would be terribly expensive.
Okay. So in your
Burkina Faso, you don't have any heating problems.
no, but sorry, all the other houses which do not have these heat
Yes,
pumps.
they all have the same system.
No, all the other houses in other localities, They don't. Who doesn't have this heat system are paying very high bills, electricity bills to maintain.
Yes, they can have high electricity bills, yes. But, formerly most houses in Sweden were heated by oil, but that has become much too expensive. So they switched to electric heating, and then that became expensive, and then a lot of people use heat pumps for the houses.
And how much heat pumps replacement? How much time does it take to work and operate? And is there any problem with the maintenance and all? And
no, this house is 11 years old, and we haven't had a problem with the heating system.
Okay.
And in the former house we had, that was one of the early heat pumps. We had it for 17 years. It was just running and running and running.
Really, that's good.
So it's ideal.
So which company it is? You have any idea? No.
No, there are several.
But it is Swedish company.
Yes.
Or German?
No, Swedish. But most of the parts are rather international.
Thank you.
A difficult trick of a bus driver.
You take center one night, 4:30. Where's center one night? Center one night train. Non-stop train. We try to reach there upstairs. So the urine will go and
But your family is here. There's no problem with that. I'll call you. Yeah, once I reach what I can also do is my family. No, only no.
ticket also.
Online.
Actually, it is day train. It is city day train.
So what time does it go?
Exact 4:30. 2 hours it reaches.
Very good. So very good. And 4 o'clock start from The Lambardar, what do you call, head of the village, had asked that when you finished your, when you finished with installation of the rig, you kindly come to have lunch, perform puja and then. And when we were finished with the work, and then we wanted to have lunch, because we too were tired after so much. And then we were about to go to him, and then he was coming back to us, and he was literally crying. Oh, what happened? And then when we came to know that the children who were playing in front of me, it took us about 4 or 5 years to get all things done. And by that time, the children, one of the children, I thought that they are playing and they are going home. And then I realized that one of the children suffered from dysentery and he died. One of those children.
Right there? No.
Right there.
This is the farmer here. He used to have animals before. Was pigs in this house. Now they are making speakers for, this big for music.
Yeah.
So he's letting it to other companies. So it used to be pigs there and cows in that barn. But there's no animals on the farm anymore, and so they have this big container well for taking the animal manure. In Sweden, you have to have such a container in order not to let out nutrients in the
environment,
ditches and environment, and also for animal manure, today you have to have a cover on top. If you have at least cow cow manure, it's quite, you get some like a floating cover of manure, and sometimes it grows some grass on top, and that is mainly, well, it's enough to prevent nutrients to escape. But for the urine here, only urine, it doesn't make such a cover. So then you have to have other types of covers. And for the project here, I was involved in establishing this as a urine storage for this Vaxholm urine. So we were looking at different alternatives, and we were looking in the agriculture press or like products sold to farmers. And there are very good covers that looks like a circus tent that are really, they very little escape of nitrogen, and but it's very expensive, and it's built for the actual for this container. It's specifically built for it. And if he would say in a few years' time, no, I don't want to take the urine, then the project have bought a big, invested a lot of money in something that they can't remove. So we were thinking of maybe floating cover. That is possible, but it's also made exactly after the measures of this one. So then we thought about these ones, the floating hexagons. On their website they say it's about 90%, 10% that can escape and 90% that doesn't. They